I rise to briefly take note of this report on government responses to committee reports this evening and to draw attention to the slow progress of the government in responding to the report on human rights implications of recent violence in Iran. While, as a general rule, we do not object to government taking an appropriate amount of time to formulate a response to committee reports, senators will recall that this particular inquiry examined a crisis situation in Iran that was and is particularly targeting women and girls. With the support of Senator Lambie as a co-sponsor, I move to establish this inquiry to respond to an emergency situation. All members of that committee acted with urgency and put a significant amount of work and effort into ensuring we could complete this inquiry and make recommendations as expeditiously as possible, which we did by reporting on the 1st of February this year. As of yesterday, it has been 6 months since the committee reported, a report which we put together in approximately 3 months after considering hundreds of submissions. Soon after the tabling of this report, it was confirmed by the Minister for Home Affairs that Australians are being targeted here in Australia by the Islamic Republic regime. And we know from security and intelligence agencies around the world that this regime is attempting assassinations and kidnappings against critics in Western countries. This is an incredibly serious situation, and it's why the committee made 12 recommendations for actions by the Australian government, including recommendations that the responsible ministers provide an update to the parliament and the Australian public on the government's current assessment of whether persons connected to the IRI regime are undertaking such behaviour in Australia. This hasn't occurred. We recommended that the government take the necessary steps to formally categorise the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as an organisation involved in supporting and facilitating terrorism. That also hasn't occurred, and in fact the government is refusing to take those necessary steps. And we recommended that Australia should minimise relations with the Islamic Republic of Iran to the greatest extent possible in recognition of the appalling behaviour of the regime. Yet even after the Home Affairs Minister revealed an Australian had been targeted in their own home, the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade advised that it did not intend to change any element of our diplomatic relations with the IRI. There does not appear to have been any consequence whatsoever for the regime for those unacceptable actions initiated by Australia. I asked DFAT in Senate estimates back in May where the government's response to our report was and was told it was being considered. This was back in May. I want to stress again that in a month's time we will mark 1 year since Mahsa Jina Amini was killed. It has been more than 6 months since the committee reported, and I think that both the Senate and the Iranian-Australian community, which I know for a fact has repeatedly written to this government asking for these recommendations to be implemented, are given the courtesy and the respect of being provided with the government's formal response.